with another surprise live show. Live, but you can watch it back and playback. Doesn't mean you have to shut it off because it's not live. But can the New York Jets win with Justin Fields as their quarterback? Well, loaded question. Win what? Do I think it's likely that Justin Fields is the answer and we could build a roster around him and win a Super Bowl? I do not think that's likely. But I will say the way that would be not true and the way it could happen is if we built a roster to be like, and this is a big if, but if we were able to build a roster like the Philadelphia Eagles, and you asked me, can you, if you stuck Justin Fields on the Eagles as their quarterback, could they have won the Super Bowl? I think, yeah. I think they're that good. And that's no insult to Hurts. I think Hurts is really good. But I think if you have the right roster, we've seen quarterbacks. I'm older than some of you younglings, right? So I've seen guys named Trent Dilfer win a Super Bowl. I saw a guy named Doug Williams, who I like. Nothing against him. He played great. But, I mean, if you look up Doug Williams' career, he wasn't, you wouldn't think Super Bowl quarterback. They won a Super Bowl with Doug Williams. The Washington Redskins won a Super Bowl, or the Commanders, whatever you want to call them, won a Super Bowl with Doug Williams as their quarterback. So the question really is Justin Fields good enough that with the right people around him you could win? Now, look, I don't think that that is the answer that we all want long term, most of us. But let's think about Justin Fields and what it means for us from a different perspective of what it means for us this season, this year. And what would that give us if we signed Justin Fields? Well, first of all, he's 25. He has limitations in his game. I'm not going to pretend he doesn't. He has limitations. He does. He has not proven in this league that he could drop back and be a drop back regular quarterback. I mean, he is limited to one read, quick passes. But, and that's a but, he's such a talented runner. He's such a talented competitor. And he does have a magical arm, even though, like some of the progressions and sitting in the pocket might not be there. But when he's running, or when you do design a play for him to execute, he can execute it. He's got a rifle of an arm. It's like a shotgun arm. I've seen him make terrific throws. Let's face it, Pittsburgh did not have the best roster around them, but they were winning. And I attribute to that Justin Fields, while he might be a limited quarterback in some of his skill sets, he's a competitor. He's a very, very, very spirited, fighting competitor. He fights. He doesn't give up, ever. And we've seen him win some tight games in Pittsburgh before they benched him. They had a winning record. They were doing okay with him. It wasn't because he was lighting up the box scores in any way, but he was doing enough as a football player to win the game. When he had to run, he ran. When it wasn't there. When they called a play, he threw the ball, and he did enough that they could win the game. He didn't turn the ball over so much that they couldn't win the game. He didn't put them in a situation where they couldn't win the game. So what does that all mean? I think at the worst case scenario, you just brought in for a year or two, even though he would start probably this season for the year after that. Either way, no matter what, you brought in an elite quarterback too. I mean, that's his floor. It's not like he's this guy who shouldn't be in the league. The worst case scenario for Justin Fields is he's just like the best backup quarterback in the NFL, or one of them. Definitely top three. Definitely. How many backup quarterbacks can you have that give you a chance to win any football game? Now the reality is, I don't know why he got benched. Well, he got benched because he's a limited quarterback. So that's what I'm saying. He's not a guy with a normal roster that's going to be the guy that wins you a Super Bowl. You're not winning a Super Bowl with him unless you put the Eagles roster around him. He got benched because Russell Wilson is able to sit in the pocket and play Pittsburgh's system fully. Like he could do a 1, 2, 3 progression type of game. That's why he got benched. But he didn't get benched because he wasn't doing what he's able to do well. Now look, I'm not sitting there celebrating saying let's get Justin Fields and we're going to win the Super Bowl. What I'm saying is, as a bridge quarterback, he, I mean, like with Tyrod Taylor, I don't know which one they fight for who starts. If Tyrod gets hurt, the point is it's not a disgrace. He's not an embarrassment. He's a real quarterback. He's a real football player with limitations. So they're going to have to build a system around him that works for him. I don't think Pittsburgh was really doing much of that. Wilson was hurt and got better. I think we can do better with Cooper Rush. We might be able to do better with Cooper Rush. I'm not going to argue that. I'm not talking about Cooper Rush, but Cooper Rush, we might be better. I'm talking about whether or not we could win with Justin Fields. And I'm saying, there have been quarterbacks that are limited, that aren't great. And again, I'm not talking about Super Bowl, but when you talk about can we win 7 to 9 games with a slight chance of pulling off a wild card spot, the kid wins. If you play good defense and keep him in the game, he finds ways to win. He does. Like, he finds a way. He's not the answer, in my opinion. Everybody that knows me knows that. I understand the limitations of Justin Fields. Unless he magically develops, which I would love it if he did, especially if he was a Jet. It's very unlikely at 20. Like, people say he's just 25. 25 is, if he hasn't done it yet, it's 25. It's not the most common occurrence that he's suddenly going to learn how to drop back and go through progressions. He's the game he's played in the NFL is the same as he's played in college. It's one read. If it's not there, get out of the pocket. Now, that sometimes is very effective. Sometimes that's very effective. You could win football games if you're good at that. I don't think it's ideal to win 12 plus games a year, to be a number 1 seeded type team, to win Super Bowls. No way. It's too limiting. But it is a way that you could dogfight your way into a playoff spot. If, and this is a big if, look at what we're putting around them. Okay? Let's say we add on a decent wide receiver, like an OKWR2, right? And draft an elite tight end, like a Warren or a Loveland, right? Like, so we get, or even a Terrence Ferguson. I mean, there are other guys too. But let's take one of the top 2, or Harold Fannin. Let's say we get him a real weapon at tight end, right? And we get him a decent guy, the kid Jordan from the Chargers or whatever. We get him a digestible WR2, right? The offensive line, if we bring back Morgan Moses, which we might, it looks like we might bring him back, you'd be returning with the same offensive line. That's a really good thing. And it's a good line with good players that will have their second year together and be able to really improve and gel. Okay? You have your WR1. You have, hopefully, impact tight ends who can impact from day one. You got yourself an experienced veteran to do WR2. We got to see what we have in Corley. But you have a great running back room. And suddenly we have this new coordinator we don't know, and we see, like, maybe he puts in a system for Fields where we can actually score points. We're not going to score 30-plus a game. We're not going to be a high-octane offense. But if he's a good offensive coordinator, if he knows what he's doing, he can get us 23 a game, and that's better than we've done in a long, long time. And Fields is the kind of guy who, like, he's very limited, but he can do it. Because of his legs, he does it. And he was been able to win games with his legs. That's an extra weapon in Justin Fields' running game that should not and cannot be overlooked. You cannot just ignore it exists. It is a problem for the other team. And it's a reoccurring problem. He could do it all. I mean, he's had games where he had 100 and plus 130 yards rushing for the Bears. I mean, like, he will keep hurting you until you adjust to it. And by the way, when you adjust to it, which is not easy to do with Justin Fields, it opens up the opportunity for him to check it down to a tight end, find Garrett Wilson, a guy he knows from college, a guy he's played with, There's some intriguing things. Now, the only way we're winning more than 5 games, the only way that the dream of winning 9 games is really going to happen is if they patch up and fix the defense. And that's a big thing. That's not like a little thing to do in one offseason. We have no safeties. We don't know how many. We might only have one linebacker. When Barnes might be the second one. Like if we don't know anything about if he's going to be good enough or not, right? So we have big holes at linebacker. We have to bring back Sherwood and another one. We need a cornerback too. Okay, maybe we bring back Eccles and let him and Stiggers pick it up, battle it out, and that's nice because it gives us a CB3 in that case because the loser of that competition is the CB3. We have a good slot corner, so that's great, right? We got Michael Carter, that's fine, that's check. I'm not worried about defensive tackle because we really only really have to get one, but I think we'll get two. I think we'll sign a veteran defensive tackle. That's a big guy, run-stopping type guy, not a superstar. And I think we're going to draft a defensive tackle because that's the richest position in the draft, and it's a position of need. So we're going to get a contributing tackle that way. And don't forget about LT3. The only issue with LT3 is he's not an early down defensive tackle. He's a passing situation tackle, which will complement as long as we get if we sign a guy and bring in a guy, as long as we have a decent tackle alongside Quinnen who could stop the run, you bring in LT3 in passing situations. He had like a 68, 69 PFF rating or score, in his 20% snaps or whatever it was, in passing situations as a pass disruptor. That's a good thing. You don't want him in running situations right now. That's not his strength, but he might develop into a specialist where he comes down in passing situations, fourth quarter, other team is running the 2-minute drill. That's when you have LT3 in the game. So it's not an unfixable situation. Defensive tackle, not unfixable. Sign a veteran, draft a guy, LT3 alongside Quinnen. We're strong up the middle. We might end up drafting an edge. I don't know. But Jermaine Johnson's coming back. At least we know he knows how to seal the edge. He might not get as many sacks. We'll have to see how he does on the ankle. But you got Will McDonald who can get the sacks, right? You kind of need another edge to replace Michael Clemens, right? So that is a need. Again, very rich draft in defensive line, including edge. If you're not looking for a superstar and a guy who can seal the edge, we can get that in the first 4 rounds of the draft. So that means what I'm saying already is we need a defensive tackle and an edge in this draft. Unless you signed very hard to sign an edge. They're very overpriced. That's why I say we can get a defensive tackle. It won't be too expensive. And we could draft one. You don't have to use too high of a pick. You draft a guy at edge. Maybe you draft your wide receiver. And maybe with your first pick, it might be Tet. Maybe you trade back. You take a Buka. Maybe you get Jaden Higgins in the 3rd round or in the 2nd round. He's a big, tall target, complements Wilson. Jordan, the guy you sign at free agency, becomes your wide receiver 3. We can fix these holes. Not all of them, though, because we still need a safety. Again, free agency, we sign a safety. We draft a guy. We bring in we get back just Jalen Mills or whatever, right? Who's a good backup, good backup box safety. Not going to be the strongest position yet, but maybe we get a really good player, a good veteran in the room for 12 to 15 million. Draft a young, promising guy. Or sign somebody else that's cheaper, like an $5 to $7 million safety. Bring back Justin Mills. We're not going to have a dream team this offseason. Like, we're not going to be able to plug every hole. You hear me talking about it. We need 2 safeties. We need a linebacker or maybe 2. We need a defensive tackle or maybe 2. That's a lot. Not all have to be super expensive, but that's a lot. A cornerback, 2, that's a lot. We need like 5 or 6 defensive players, right? And then we need the wide receivers, and then we need the tight end. So we need some things. And I don't know that we're going to complete it to the satisfaction of the Jets world as we like. Like, some of those are not going to be filled by studs. They're going to be, hopefully, just solid starting level guys. Right? And I forgot to say we also need a right tackle because Morgan Moses is not signed yet. And $70 million is not endless money, right? Hopefully you get Morgan for $5-6 million, right? Hopefully, so that solves that problem. Still got $65-64 million left. You bring in a wide receiver that's $7 to $10 million in that guy Jordan that I'm talking about or whatever, some kind of guy like that, respectable guy, still got 55 million. You bring in that safety I'm talking about, let's say 15 million, worst case, still got 40 million. Fields is going to cost you at least 10 a year, right? $20 million contract. Maybe you do a void on a third year. I don't know how you do that, but that's going to cost you and bring you down to 30 million. See, so the money goes fast. You bring back Sherwood, he's about 12 million at least. That's going to bring you down to 18 million. Then you need money for the draft class. So that now you're heading towards a spot where you have to start thinking, okay, what spots are we going to fill in the draft? Maybe that's where we get our WR2. Maybe that's where we get a linebacker or an edge, a cornerback. I mean, anything we don't hit in free agency, we could fill in the draft. Like, don't panic. If we don't fill a cornerback like the draft is not top heavy, but it's deep in some positions. There are plenty of opportunities to get cornerbacks in the second and third round. You could get defensive tackles all the way up to the fourth round. You get tight ends all the way up to the fourth round. You can get edge, probably want to go first 2 rounds. But you can get a guy in the third round now that we moved up to 72. Top 100 player. There are edges that are not going to get you 15 sacks a year. They might only get you 7 or 8, but they could seal the edge. They could be much better players than Michael Clemens, right? So we could replace Clemens with a much more solid player. Not going to get tons of sacks, but that's okay. That's what Will McDonald will do. He's the guy that will get the sacks. Jermaine Johnson hopefully will get some sacks. Quinnen Williams will hopefully get some sacks. We have a different defensive coordinator that's going to blitz. He's going to use our linebackers to blitz. So Quincy Williams will have an opportunity to get some sacks, and whoever else plays. So it's okay. It's not perfect, but think about it this way. Next year, we get a whole new class of draft picks and a whole new draft class. That's why I'm saying, to get where we really want to be, we're not winning the Super Bowl next year. We're not putting together the roster that's going to win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. We're not. But if we do this offseason right, if we sign value players and get decent guys in the locker room that can play the system, and then go out into this draft and nail the draft and hit on the draft and fill in a bunch of our holes, next year we can complete it. Do the right extensions, extend Sauce, Scott, whatever you do, and then complete the roster. Then you have a young roster, and there's all kinds of dependencies. The coach got to be good, right? Aaron Glenn, I think he's going to be good. I like this offensive coordinator. I like bringing in the Detroit system. I'm being optimistic. I think it could be good. It might blow up in our face, but it might be good. We just have to see. Let me read this. Justin Fields better than Tyrod. Is Justin Fields better than Tyrod Taylor? No. But Tyrod Taylor can't play 17 games, right? He never has. He gets hurt. So you have 2 guys who give you a chance to win games. Right? I mean, that's more of a 2026 strategy, right? I mean, if you bring in Justin Fields and go with Tyrod Taylor, it's 80% the strategy is we're going to draft a quarterback in 2026. There's a 20% chance that, holy cow, Justin Fields, 25 years old, finally found an offensive coordinator who could put together a system that works for his style of play, and we're scoring 25 points plus a game, and oh my God, maybe we don't have to draft a quarterback. We can actually make do with Justin Fields, and we're not going to be the Kansas City Chiefs type of organization. We're not going to be a New England type of organization. We're not going to win on the back of a star quarterback, but maybe we're going to try to win on the back of a really good offense that plays to the strengths of our quarterback, that's strong in every area with a really good defense and just a winning culture and a team that wins a lot of games and has a chance to compete. Maybe. I don't want that. I want to draft a quarterback in 2026, and I want both. I want a great roster. I want a great coach, and I want to put it all together, a great quarterback, a top 10 quarterback. It doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes, but give me a top 10 quarterback. Give me a quarterback who could throw for 4,000 yards. Give me a quarterback who could throw 30 touchdowns. A quarterback who has single-digit interceptions, a quarterback with a rating of 95 or higher overall for the year, a quarterback who can do come from behind victories and not fall apart in the fourth quarter and can win big games, right? I have a guy. I'm sure you all have a guy in 2026. You all will have a guy who can be that guy. And then who knows? Maybe they get Justin Fields and they draft a Jackson Dart. And you know what? What? I'll say this. I'm not a fan of Jackson Dart, but if they drafted him, Justin Fields makes sense because Jackson Dart is not playing year one. And people have got it. It's driving me crazy. I see somebody saying, oh, I watch him in college. He's ready for the NFL. Dude, no. No. Do you understand the scheme in Ole Miss? Do you understand that the scheme he's playing in? It doesn't mean he can't end up developing into a great quarterback. I'm not saying that. But it's not the same. He's playing in a fantasy world. It's a land of make-believe. It's not the same sport even. He's playing in a system that is not an NFL offense. It's run very differently. And that doesn't mean he can't be a great quarterback that's going to learn and evolve into a great quarterback that can run an NFL offense. But it's not going to be year one. So Justin Fields makes sense. 2-year contract. Then you got him this year with Tyrod, and then the year after that you got him with your Jackson Dart if you take him. But Jackson Dart has got to sit on the bench for at least 1 year. At least. And then get ready for a very painful first year of him playing. Because he has to adjust. It's not magic. There's a chance. There's always that dice roll that he's that rare outlying quarterback that came from a non-NFL pro system and magically in the first year adjusted and just has all the skill set to do it, right? But you can't rely on that. You better not get mad at him, and you better not say, oh, he's a bust if you were a Jackson Dart guy because he can't do it his first year. Because you have to be like you have to understand the offense he's playing in. It's not an NFL offense. It's not a pro offense. So if you want to get Jackson Dart, that's fine. If you believe in Jackson Dart, that's fine. But understand this. You have to give him time to develop. He is not going to come into the league, game one starter, and be able to run an NFL offense effectively the way you're hoping and dreaming he can. And it's foolish to think otherwise. So now that we got that settled. Tom C is here. He said, don't forget to tune in on tomorrow night. That's right. Tomorrow night at 9 p.m., we'll be going over the defensive tackles. We were talking about that before. Defensive tackles and who we could draft in the defensive, who we could draft. It's such a deep defensive tackle. This draft is so deep in defensive tackle that I'd be very disappointed if we invested a lot of our cap money, and the money we have, to spend on free agency on defensive tackle. Yeah, we don't even have to panic. What if this guy gets picked and he's not on the board? No. There's 4 rounds of defensive tackles. You could take 2. And then you have LT3. You take a guy who's a big fat guy that Green Bean loves, right? And then you take another athlete, right? Another athletic, all-around, versed defensive tackle. And then you have a nice rotation next to Quinnen. And you know what I mean? And you hope one of them will stick. So there's lots you can do. We have a bunch of draft picks. I say we go top 3 rounds defensive tackle, and then you do one with one of the 5th round picks or 6th round picks. And you do it that way. Maybe you get your big fat guy at 6, or maybe you get a Nevius Peebles in the 6th rounds, right? You get your athlete, you get your leverage guy, and then maybe you get Walter Nolan. Ooh. Or maybe you get Dorian Alexander, the big monster out of Toledo. In the 3rd round, it might even be too soon to take him at 72. But he'll definitely be there at 72, I think. That would be a beautiful pick with the 3rd pick. You get me Dorian Alexander, there's your freaking first, second down defensive tackle next to Quinnen. Done deal, day 1 starter. So, there's a lot we could do. Justin Fields is not the guy. He might not be the guy that win the Super Bowl, but he might be the bridge quarterback. That's, so I see everyone saying, he's not the guy, he's not the guy. If we sign Justin Fields, he's not the Super Bowl guy. Right? But who is? Who's the guy you're going to win a Super Bowl with this year? right? You're not winning a Super Bowl this year. You could trade up and take Cam Ward, and then we have no picks, right? You could trade all your picks, and then you're saying, hey, Cam Ward, we believe you're going to be really good, but this is the fan base that always bitches and complains that we never support quarterbacks and we don't put the right players around them, and that's why they're never good. And then we wonder why Cam Ward will fail here after we trade all of our picks to get him, and we have like tons of holes all over our roster. So, I mean, so he's not winning a Super Bowl in 25. And he's probably going to make it that even if he's good, we're not going to win in 26 because we're not going to have the picks. And we're not going to be able to build the rest of the team out. The NFL is very competitive. Kansas City, the Eagles, Buffalo, they're very good. We need a lot of very good players to compete at that level. Okay? So we're not winning the Super Bowl anyway, but who's a bridge quarterback? Who's a bridge quarterback that can make us watchable? Justin Fields is a guy who could find a way to win games, and maybe, most likely, we're not going to win 7 games. Fine. That's the case no matter who we get. But if, maybe he has as good a chance as anyone else if we're going to slip in and find a way to win 8, 9 games. Maybe Justin Fields is the guy to do that. Because maybe with the right coordinator, using his legs, he can do just enough that if we fill our defense well and play good defense, we can find a way to do it. Or, another way to think about it is maybe we're going to be a running team. Maybe we're going to take advantage and say, hey, you know what? We have a pretty good offensive line. They're pretty good at run blocking, especially the interior of that offensive line. We have a great running back room. Let's pound the freaking ball all day long. And let's take as much pressure off of whoever plays quarterback as possible. So the bottom line is what we're going to find out is what's the real strategy. Is the strategy take a quarterback now? Or is the strategy going to be take a quarterback in 2026? I think it's very unlikely there's anything outside of that strategy. I don't think we're thinking our future quarterback for the next 5 or 7 years is a guy we're bringing in-house. I don't think they're thinking Justin Fields is going to be our quarterback for the next 5 years. They're hoping he's so freaking good that they could say, wow, we don't need to draft a quarterback. But they know that the plan A, though, is that he's probably not going to be good enough to make them not want to draft a quarterback in 2026. And in 2026, that's when you're going to have quarterbacks galore. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Cam Ward was there at 7, that's a different story. Because then we could still put the players around him. We're not giving up all of our picks. But unfortunately, he's not going to be there at 7. So, and it's not even a real conversation because the truth is Tennessee has no reason to trade back to 7. Why would they do that? Trade back to 3. Trade with the Giants. And you know what I mean? Trade with the Giants. This way you still get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Tennessee would be stupid to trade back further than that. Think about it. They're in position, if they don't want a quarterback, they're in a position to get one of the elite players of this draft. There's only a few. Arguably, there's only 2. Outside of quarterback, non-quarterback positional players, Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are so far above everybody else, it's not even funny. I mean, and the funny thing is nobody talks about the guy that would be the number 3, and that's probably, if he's healthy, in the right circumstances, Will Johnson, the cornerback. He's arguably the only guy that you can really put up there. If you say Will Campbell, that means to me you're looking at websites and you've never watched him play because he's not even in the top 5 in tackles last year in last year's draft. So he's not a great player. It's just a terrible year for offensive tackles. Doesn't mean there won't be some good players. There'll be some good tackles drafted that end up being good players, but compared to other years, it's a terrible year. So don't even throw the name Will Campbell at me. And I don't even know if he's going to play tackle. He's probably going to be a guard. Okay? But, I'm not saying they won't draft him as a tackle. I'm not saying they won't start him as a tackle. But 3 years from now, 4 years from now, let's see. Will Campbell will either be a below-average tackle or a really, really good guard. And I think some NFL team is going to realize, let's get a better tackle in here, and let's move him over to guard and get an all-pro guard. Because that's what he is. He's an all-pro guard. So why would Tennessee trade out of that? There's only 2 elite guys. You have to be, of course, if you trade the number 1 pick, you can go back to 3 because you know that the Giants are taking Cam Ward. And then, boom, You're gonna let number two Cleveland decide they're either gonna take Shadir Sanders or they're gonna trade out. But the bottom line is you're the very worst case scenario. You're going to have your choice between Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. If Cleveland picks one of those guys, you get the other one. You just got new draft capital. You got an extra pick, and you got one of the two guys you would have taken anyway. If you decided you didn't want to go quarterback, if you like Cam Ward at all, you just take him. No brainer, right? If you're Tennessee and you like Cam Ward, why wouldn't you take him? If you like him, you're going to pass on him for Will Levis? That would be pretty stupid. Okay, let's see. I agree, Joey. It's a year-to-year campaign. What's up, Jets Afterburners? Good to see you here. Brad Finkelstein here. Johnny Boy is here. Joey Bard is here. Jets Mess is here. Afterburner says, with the right coaching, Fields can be a beast. Look at Baker Mayfield as he finally now, I don't know. Yeah, okay, so here's my problem with that. Baker Mayfield was good in Cleveland. They're just stupid. Baker Mayfield was good. Everyone forgets that. Before he was injured, he brought them to the playoffs. Who has done that in Cleveland? Who brings them to the playoffs? Aside from Joe Flacco on that weird Cinderella run. He is good. Baker Mayfield was always my guy. I always loved him. I always thought he was good. Cleveland played him hurt the last year he was there. He shouldn't have played. They should have let him heal. They made him play hurt. They lost because of it. He didn't play well. They're a crappy offense, crappily coached at the time. He goes and he gets a real coach who brings out the best and makes him good again. Now, Justin Fields, I think I don't know about beast, but I know that if you cater to his skill sets, I believe you could win games. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback, but if you cater to his skill sets, I believe you could win games. And, like for example, I know some people think he's just this great quarterback. I will say this till I'm dead or until proven wrong. Bo Nix is good because he has a coach who created a system that fit his skill set. And that's taking nothing away from Bo Nix, because if you're good enough that a coach could put together a system that you're effective in, that's not easy in the NFL. Like, it's not easy. Because there are 10, 12 teams every year that can't do it. They don't have a quarterback they can put a system around that works. So it's not a knock on Bo Nix. I'm just saying. He's not Dan Marino. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not those guys. He's not this gifted, crazy quarterback that could drop back and whip the ball all over the field. But, man, you give him the right coach. He certainly played his ass off, and he played well, and he made the plays in the clutch that he needed to make, and he won games for Denver. So, can Justin Fields do that? He's a lot more talented than Bo Nix in almost every category. He is. In natural talent, there's nothing Bo Nix does that I don't think Justin Fields could do, except one thing that we have to see if Justin Fields can develop, and that is you got to be more than a one read and go. You got to be able to do more than take one quick read and then either check it down or go. You got to be able to sometimes go back there and look off for a cornerback or a safety down the field with one receiver and turn your head and find the other receiver. You have to be able to do that. And he needs to, I'm not saying he never does it or can't do it. I'm saying he has to do that more often. He has to be able to drop back, stay in the pocket for the 2.5 to 3 seconds, and then go through one Mississippi, go through the progressions, and be able to then find that third route, that second route or that third route. And if that doesn't work, then you could check it down. Then you could run when it's there. But you can't just, you're going to limit the offense and yourself if you're doing that all the time. If you're always just, Garrett's not open, oh, let me check it down. If it's not there, let me run. Like, it can't just be that all day long, right? He has to be able to look and look, you have to be a full offense. If he could develop a little bit more in that area, if a coordinator could help him and just, make that doable for him, he could win games for us. He could definitely win games for us. He won games for Chicago with his legs. It's not like they never won with him. They were just a terrible team around him and a terrible coach. And you saw that because they drafted Caleb Williams, and what changed? They gave him wide receivers, and what changed? No matter what they put around them, nothing changed on that freaking team because the coach was terrible. So that's Justin Fields has had nothing but terrible, right? Then he goes to Pittsburgh and he was winning, right? He wasn't good enough to keep the starting job over Russell Wilson because he's limited in what I'm saying. But he was winning. And I'm saying if you have a good enough coordinator, he has abilities and talent and a skill set that you could still win football games possibly if the coaches do put him in a situation where he can succeed. And of course, you have to play defense, right? Because you could be not that good on offense and win games if your defense is lights out, or if you get turnovers. There's other ways to win games. Let's see, Joey Fields to Wilson. He won 5 games last year, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. Is that Justin Fields? I mean, that's good because that's showing he's efficient. Dell is saying I don't trust. Deli is saying I don't trust Tyrod. Yeah, well, that's the whole point. I have no problem with Tyrod starting, but we need to have another real quarterback in there because Tyrod always gets hurt, and we can't have him get hurt and then say, that's another season where we're going to be 2-15, and we're going to all freaking have to be miserable every week because we don't have a backup. Right? So let Justin Fields and Tyrod battle it out. You have 2 quarterbacks who give you a chance to win games. We're not winning a Super Bowl. We're not winning a Super Bowl. I'll say it a million times. Maybe if I say it enough, maybe we'll win a Super Bowl. But I'll say it a million times. Let's not be stupid. Let's not give people another reason to laugh at us. We're not winning a Super Bowl. It's not happening. We do not have the roster. We are not going to be competitive enough to win a Super Bowl. What we're hoping for is to not be an embarrassment, not be a joke. And I don't care about the draft pick for 26 as much as I want a quarterback. It's very important that this team wins a certain amount of games or plays at a certain level for it not to fall apart on Aaron Glenn, right? Like we need a new coach has to come in. And you have to have some kind of taste of success. Like something has to feel better. Otherwise, it will get very ugly. Right? We can't have that where then all the pressure in year 2 he's already on the hot seat. So we need some good things to come out of his first year. So we need quarterbacks who can keep us competitive. And I don't think Aaron Glenn is just bullshitting. Like I don't think it was just media hype. I think when you listen to him talk, he's not messing around. He wants to win right away. Like he's not joking around. He is not sitting there thinking, well, I'll just give me a chance. We might only win 4 games. He's not doing that. His attitude is we're fucking winning. And that's what he's going to tell the locker room. So expect us to bring in another quarterback to make that it all possible. Matthew Smith, we're not getting Cam Ward. So whether you're right or wrong, whether he's a star, whether he's not a star, we're not getting him. So you could sit there and type his name 50,000 times. We're not getting him. We're not getting him because we're not trading 3 number 1s and 2 number 2s. We're not that stupid of an organization. No organization is that stupid except maybe the Niners for Trey Lance. We're not that stupid. He's not dropping to us. We're not going to get him at a reasonable price because if Tennessee's going to trade down, they're going to trade with the Giants or a team that keeps them in the top 4. They're not trading down to 7. They're not going to put themselves in a situation where they don't get an elite player. It's not going to happen. So Cam Ward will not be a Jet, and it won't matter next year when there's 5 better quarterbacks in that draft than him, right? And in 5 years from now, I'm going to remind you, Matt Smith, when Cam Ward is just a jag, and he's no better than Kyle Murray or just any average quarterback, 15th to 20th, middle of the league, mobile quarterback, not Superman, not that great, not bad, pretty good, could be if you put the right team around him, could be in the playoffs, fine, starting quarterback, but not this star generational player you seem to think he is because you watch him in college playing against inferior competition. Did I say that enough? It's not our only hope. 2026 is going to be loaded with quarterbacks. So it's not our only hope. Stop living year by year. It's our only hope. It's the worst quarterback year since the Pickett one, right? And it will go down with that year is maybe the worst of the decade of the century. Like it is such a terrible year compared to last year and compared to next year. It's not our last hope or our only hope. Or like if we get somebody this year like Justin Fields and he's not very good, and then next year we don't get a quarterback, or the quarterback we take stinks, then we're screwed. Then that quarterback is our only hope. The one we're taking in 2026. You can't right before the one of the biggest years in quarterback in 26 and 27's got some good ones too because there was a freshman last year. I'm forgetting his name. Oh my God, it was spectacular. So 27 might even be a good year. There's some good quarterback years coming. This is not the year. This is the year that we have. If he drops to 7, fine. I mean, I would have Cam Ward as my fifth best quarterback last year. Maybe sixth. I don't know. He'd be like 5 or 6. Chance to be okay. I'd definitely put him over Bo Nix. And I'll say that now, even after the fact. Like, not that he's better than Bo Nix, but I'm going to be honest. I would have put him over Bo Nix. Now I wouldn't. After I saw Bo Nix, what he could do with a real coach, but I would have put him over Bo Nix. But I would not have put him above Caleb Williams. I would not have put him above Penix, Daniels, McCarthy, Drake May. I would not have put him above any of those guys. So no, no. I mean, if he drops to 7, fine. You're going to trade 2, 3 number 1 picks for him. You're going to mortgage your whole future for this quarterback because you fell in love with a college quarterback who plays in a system in Miami where all quarterbacks put up good numbers and look great against inferior competition. And you're going to tell me that that's the quarterback you're going to roll the dice on? No, thank you. There's very few quarterbacks I'd ever want to trade up. But by the way, it's not Cam Ward. It's not personal to him. There are very few quarterbacks I would ever want my team to trade multiple number 1 and number 2 picks for. Very rare. It would have to be generational. It would have to be a generational type quarterback. Andrew Luck, maybe Trevor Lawrence the way he was, Peyton Manning. It would have to be one of those kind of guys, legendary guys. Doesn't mean they're guaranteed to work out, but it would have to be a guy you felt that way about. There's no quarterback this year that's like that. There's no generational quarterback. Give me a break. He's not better than Justin Fields was in college. If you go back to the year Justin Fields was drafted, if you go back to that draft, Cam Ward doesn't rank above Justin Fields. Cam Ward doesn't rank above Kyler Murray. Those superstar guys that you trade multiple number 1s for? Come on. Let's be real. Are we going to give Garrett a contract extension before the season starts? I sure hope so. We have Travis train him. We already picked a quarterback. Billy, you like Travis Jordan? I'd love for Jordan Travis. I would love for Jordan Travis to get an opportunity. Right? I'm not going to sit there and bet my life. I like Jalen Higgins. Ted is a poor man's Drake London. I love Jaden Higgins. I would love to get him at 72. Dom C doesn't think he'll drop that far and that we have to use our second round. I would love to trade back our second round 15 spots and get him there. I loved him. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. Fell in love with him right from the start of the Senior Bowl, day one. Day one, practice one. Dom C says, Chaos, go check out the receivers. I go check out the receivers. The second guy to run a route jumps up over the defender, makes an incredible catch, stays on his feet, stumbles into the end zone, and who is it? Higgins. I said, who's that kid? I look at the helmets. That looks like Iowa State. Then 2 receivers later, this other receiver burns the cornerback. He's a smaller, faster guy. Same helmet. I said, holy shit, who's that? That's Jaden Noel from Iowa State. So they got 2 receivers there. But Higgins is the one we need because he complements Garrett Wilson really well because he's like 6'3", 6'4". He's a big-bodied receiver. Best Mess says, what about drafting Gray Zabel? Zabel's a guard. So they might list him as a tackle, but he's most likely a guard. You have to understand. I know people get so annoyed when you bring in arm length and you bring in different things like that. But you have to understand. 9% of the starting tackles in the NFL, of all the NFL 64 starters, 9% of the tackles have under 34-inch width arms. Okay? And there's a reason for it. Because when in today's NFL, when you have a speed rusher, I'm going to steal everything Dom just taught me this morning. I wasn't able to verbalize it as detailed as I can now because of Dom. When you have a speed rusher coming around the end that you have to move and get, you have to, when you block, you have to say, Matthew Smith, you should know this. Matthew Smith would know this. You have to, the center of your helmet has to be aligned with the right side of their body. If you're playing left tackle, right? So you're not centered to them. You're centered, your center should be right in their right side, right? And that's how you're grabbing them. See, what that does is that stops them from moving to the inside, right? And then the reason you have to have long enough arms is because you still have to stop them from getting around you. So you have to have a long enough arm to still push and block them. Now, if you have short arms, what it means is you have to meet them head to head. You can't cheat to the right a little bit. The problem with that is now you could reach around so they can't go around you. But now they could swipe. They do that swipe move and they can cut to the inside. 9% of the league is good enough to overcome that. Maybe their footwork, maybe the way they grab on. So when you take a guy, when you take a guy because he was able to do it in college because he was playing against inferior competition, so he's able to do it in college, and now he's playing against these speed rushers, these power rushers, these strong technique guys that are super NFL well coached. It's a huge disadvantage. And by the way, those 9% of tackles that have under 34-inch width arms, I didn't see a name on that list that was anyone special. No one that would be worth a number 7 pick, or no one that would be worth a number 42 pick. No one on that list, to me, is worth doing. So you could sit there and say, well, this guy will, like, that's what the thing with Will Campbell. Oh, he's going to be the outlier. You're going to use your number 7 pick on the hope that he's an outlier? Just the word itself, outlier, means it's low percentage. You don't use your number 7 pick on that. The only thing that separates and makes his number 7 pick different than the second and third round pick, because there's lots of talented guys, it's with the 7th pick, you gotta get the can't miss guy. The guy who has a chance, has a higher ceiling, has a chance to be a superstar, but most importantly, has a high floor. That's the most important thing. You cannot take a guy with small arms to play tackle. You can't do it. Now, if they took him and, made him maybe an emergency swing tackle, like eventually, because he played it in college, but is primarily going to be your future guard. He's going to sit, and then if you can't keep both Simpson and at AVT, and you lose one of them, second, third round, fine. I don't think you have to go that high though, because the problem I have with him is I like Miles Frazier better. So to me, it's like instead of Zabel, like just take Miles Frazier. Let him be your guard of the future. Let him be right now your swing guard this year, his first year, in case somebody gets hurt. He can even be your emergency tackle. He might be better than Mitchell, and he might be better. He might be better than Warren. Like he might like because Frazier, he never played it in college, but in the Senior Bowl they lined him up at tackle, and he was practicing at tackle. And he was really good. So you never know. But I'd want him to be a future guard. What's up, Greg? Good to see you. Billy's here. Joey Bad is here. Wild Wave is here. What's going on, Wild Wave? Matthew, you think T-Mac is overrated? Well, here's the problem with T-Mac. The problem with T-Mac, that where this all started, was he didn't run at the combine. I knew he was going to come in. Like, in my mind, I was prepared for 4.6. Like, I was prepared. I said, I don't care. He has football speed. He's not a track guy. He's not going to do it on the track. because he's a long-legged, long-stride runner. And he's a guy that's why he's your WR2 that complements Garrett Wilson, because he's not going to explode off the line of scrimmage. He's the guy that is your second progression where you give him time to get into stride. And that's when he's going to create his space. That's when he's going to jump up and get balls. Okay? When he refused to run, to me that said, oh shit, maybe he doesn't even think he can get a 4.6. Maybe he's 4.7. That's scary. Like, because we got linemen running 4.7 now. You know, we got the safeties running 4.7. We got everybody, linebacker, running. They're running even faster. But we got all the other athletes are running 4.7, right? We see, you know, the linemen, the offensive tackles are getting down to 4.8. So the fact that he wouldn't run is very, very concerning. And the fact that he said he wouldn't run his pro day is very concerning. And it doesn't lessen my opinion of him as a player. Like, I still see what I see with my eyes on the football field. But what it does is it puts some doubt. I put some doubt. I don't know who started this rumor of, oh, he's like a Drake London light. I don't know. I think, you know, are you saying it because you heard someone else say it? Are you saying it because you truly watched his film and you watched Drake London's film and you think he's a Drake London light? Do you know what I mean? It's so easy to just throw that out there, you know. And remember, I'm very aware that, you know, less than 1% of people that are in the chats actually ever watched film. You're watching highlights, which does not count. I'm sorry, it just doesn't count. Watching highlights does not count, right? Because you're looking at their whole career and you're pulling out their best plays. If you could look at the highlight film for any player in college football, almost, and think, oh my God, first round pick, they're amazing, right? It's nonsense. I don't know that he's not. I mean, maybe he is a Drake London light. I mean, but also maybe he's a Michael Evans. And he very well could be a Michael Evans. You know, the thing about it is, if we took McMillan, the interesting thing about it is we're not really looking for WR1, right? As far as his role, we have a WR1. So you use number 7 on a guy, you want him to be a 1,000-yard receiver every year. But the reality is, as a team, if Garrett Wilson with a real quarterback or a real system gets up to 1,200, 1,300, I think he could be a 1,400, 1,500-yard guy if we ever get the real quarterback. But if Garrett Wilson, even if he's your 1,200, 1,300-yard guy, and you go out and you get a tight end like Loveland or Tyler Warren, and you get a tight end that can actually get 800-plus yards, your WR2 only has to get 800 yards, and they're fine in an offense that looks like that, right? So, especially when you got Breece Hall, if he's still receiving for a lot of yards. Braylon Allen is a good receiver. They're all good receivers, our running backs. You don't need 1,000-plus yards from your WR2, but you're using a number 7 on them. So psychologically, people are going to be pissed, even though what really matters is that we win football games and score points. That's what really matters. So what's scary about me, the McMillan, is his floor got lower when he refused to run. His floor got lower. His ceiling didn't change for me. I still think that he has a Michael Evans type ceiling, but his floor got lower. Now all of a sudden he could be a bust, because if he's slow as shit, if he can't run under a 4.7, you can't have a receiver where he's fighting for every football because he can never create space. And in that league, every cornerback is running 4.4 or lower, right? Or maybe a couple at 4.5, but they're very sneaky and very good with their hands. Or, you know, like, I don't care how good you are at contested catches. You can't make a living like that. Like, you're going to have to be able to, you have to have some speed to create space. Because otherwise, if the quarterback doesn't throw it perfectly in stride, if there's any pullback on that football, and you have to slow down in any kind of way, like for that football, it's going to get, he's not going to have enough space to slow down. The cornerback's going to be there, and it's going to get ugly. Maybe you'll get a lot of PIs. That's how you get offensive pass interference. Defensive pass interference, DPIs, because you're you're running and the quarterback underthrows you, and then but I think his problem is going to be the quarterback is going to have to learn how to throw it less, because if he's really that slow, you're going to overthrow him. I don't know. That's not true, because you can get in tune or in connection with any quarterback. I mean, the quarterback for Arizona is doing a hell of a job getting him the football. So I don't know. I don't know. I think that he comes out of the seven conversation if he doesn't run in his pro day. If he can't put up a 4.6, I can't get on board with picking him in the at seven. I mean, I say that, but then again, it's not like I'm going to scream and curse if they do pick him. I'd be happy to get a day two wide receiver as long as we get one on day three too. Blitz crew. Yeah, like I think that if you don't go as high on a receiver, then you have to take another one as a backup. You have to take a shot at somebody. Like a Jaden Noel or something like that. And you have to get him, as an extra guy. Hopefully you fall in love with someone. You know, it's weird. I was at the Senior Bowl and I was totally in love with Tez Johnson. Like, he's freaking amazing, but he weighs 150 pounds. He weighs 156 pounds, and he's 5'7". So I just don't know how it could work. Except I deep down in my heart I know if he goes to Kansas City, the entire league is dead. Like, if Tez Johnson becomes a Chief, everybody is going to be in a lot of trouble. That's all I know. If he ends up in that coaching staff under Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes, we're all in a lot of trouble. Somebody needs to take the sacrifice and take Tez Johnson just to make sure that Kansas City doesn't get him. Let me tell you, he's tiny. He might not be a fit for us. We already have Corley, right? That we're just no way we're gonna totally give up on him. There's no way. We traded up and gave up capital to get him. His college tape is too good. We have to see if it was just the coaching staff. So the question then comes, there's no room for a Tez Johnson, really, because he's not a boundary receiver. But somebody's going to have to grab that kid to make sure he doesn't end up in Kansas City. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Sharon McLean says, Sharon, are you the you used to have a different screen name and used to always watch my channel and me and Nick when we were on, and I forgot that screen name, and now you're just using your real name? Is that what's going on here? I don't know, because it's an Irish name, and I remember, and I see that you're a member, so that really makes me think that it might be you, or you got gifted that membership. Hoping we get Watts in the second round. I love that. Tyleik Williams in the second with our extra pick from trading back from 7 to 12. I like the way you're thinking. After picking Warren, Trapillo in the third round. You're like, okay, and McCord in the fourth. McCord is far. I don't care about the McCord, but I don't hate it or love it. I don't care about McCord. Fine. You like McCord? Fine. I will not be upset, and I won't care if they take McCord. I'm not going to have an opinion either way. Sharon, you just literally described a dream draft for me. Like, that's a dream draft for me. Let me look at it again. You get Watts in the second after getting Tyler Warren. That's amazing. Tyleik Williams, fine. You like him, that's fine. He has a very good chance to be a very good player. And Trapillo, there's your right tackle. There's your right tackle. I love it. And he could be a swing the first year. If you get Morgan Moses, Ozzie could be your swing. You could swing back and left or right. He could be your backup guy, comes in. And then after Morgan is gone after this season, Ozzie's been practicing with the team. You have some continuity there. He knows the guys. He slips into that right tackle spot. Beautiful. I love it. You literally just filled in 4 positions of need. And then you throw in a dart at the quarterback, which is fine. I'm not going to argue that. You threw a dart, I think in that scenario, you get a guy like, what was his name? The guy that Dom C loved, the cornerback that's going to be there, Noel something. There's a cornerback that Dom C has like in his top 8, like that's going to be totally available in the back rounds or in those back rounds. Or you get like Miles Frazier. So you give us some depth at guard. You give us our future guard if we can't sign both of them. But I can't be more on board with that draft, with that strategy. I mean, that's exactly what I want to see the Jets do. Trade back to 12. I don't know if the Cowboys are going to do that now because Gentry's probably going to go to the Raiders. So now Dallas will have to trade with Jacksonville. So the only way I see somebody trading with us and trading back to get Warren is if somebody wants Shadare Sanders, who might still be on the board. That's the only way I see it happening. Um, I'm here for Justin Fields unless the Jets are willing to trade to number one. Well, I think it would be catastrophic if we traded to number one. So hopefully it'll be Justin Fields. I honestly don't think Cam Ward's going to be a better quarterback than Justin Fields in the NFL. Like I don't think he was a better college player. So why would I think he'd be a better NFL player? And I certainly think that Kyler Murray was a better college football player than Cam Ward. And I think Hurts. I think Hurts was a better quarterback in college than Cam Ward. And even though he won a Super Bowl, he did it with the crazy roster around him. And he's certainly not a guy I would trade three number ones for and two number twos. Because if you put Jalen Hurts on the Jets and we had no draft picks to put around him, he'd be terrible. Like, I mean, not terrible, but he wouldn't be able to win. He wouldn't have the tools. I mean, you got to be smart about this stuff. But if Cam Ward drops to 7, sure, you could take him if you want him. Anyone you think now have a legit shot to win a higher third round now? Anyone you think we now have a legit shot for with? I'm sorry, it's really hard because I can't see because I got my eye done, but now I can't see things, so I have to like hold it up to my face. Thank you, Connor. It's Noel Williams from California. That's the guy. Um, but let me get back to that. Anyone think that we now have a legit shot for with the higher third rounder now? So Blitz Crew, I think that 19 spots is tremendous. I think there's a chance now, if we don't take him in the second round, that we can get the wide receiver from Iowa State, Higgins. There's no way he was going to be at 92. I think there's a glimmer of hope, a chance he could be at 72. A chance. So that would be amazing. I think Ozzy Trapulo, who we were just talking about, that Sharon mentioned, I don't think he's there at 92, but I think he might be there at 72. He might not, because I think the team that might take Ozzy is New England, because he's local, Boston College. The media there loves him, so New England Patriots are very, very in tune with him. And at the Senior Bowl, I know they've interviewed him, so they're eyeing him. So I think they're still ahead of us by a few spots in the. If they still have a third round pick in front of us, we're in trouble. It's gonna be hard to get him. Yeah, maybe we grab that guy Hollis from Rutgers. I gotta ask Connor Long how he feels about him. He's a big boy, but is he gonna have the quickness to handle the speed rushers? Is the question. Fields has seen NFL action. You don't get that deer in headlights year or two you get from a rookie. Well, if you're looking to, who gives us the best chance to win 7 to 9 games? Getting Justin Fields is better than most of people's solutions. There's nobody in this draft you're going to draft that's going to win you 7 to 9 games their rookie year. And if you think that, you're delusional. You're delusional if you think that. I mean, it could happen, but it's such an outlier thing that it's so silly to argue that it will happen, because it's so rare in the NFL. I mean, the only one to do it lately is what, C.J. Stroud, right? And he had a much stronger team around him, But like other than that, like, how many quarterbacks come in year one and are that effective? I mean, Bo Nix did it a different way, so please don't yell his name. He didn't do it the way C.J. Stroud did. And Cam Ward is nothing like Bo Nix. And, I think I'd put him above Bo Nix. Like, if they were in the same draft class and I didn't know if Bo Nix didn't have the year he had, I would have put Cam Ward ahead of Bo Nix. But I don't think we have Sean Payton as a coach. Like, we're not going to put that offense around them. Like, we're not going to, I just don't think we're going to do that. So, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think that you could tell me that Cam Ward has a better chance his rookie year. Like, you could argue that he'll be better than Justin Fields if you believe in him, fine. But if you're going to argue that he's year one better than Justin Fields, I agree with you, Billy. No way. No way he's coming into this league and he's going to be better than Justin Fields is right now going into his 5th year, who's seen plenty of NFL action. No, no way. With Pierce, his combine was wild. Would be willing to kick the tires on him in the fifth or sixth round, like him. But I am higher on Ozzy, so am I. And Anaj Cornelius from Oregon. Yeah, well, Anaj Cornelius is, it's interesting. Oregon is always has great tackles, right? Because, obviously Justin Connolly is better than him, but like, is the guy. But I agree with you at right tackle. Anaj is very good too. We should, you can't overlook him. Mabu is very good. Not perfect. There's no perfect offensive tackle guys this draft. We have to understand that. But there's no perfect guy. That's why we're talking about second and third round, right? Because there is no can't miss guy. And to tell you the truth, how many of you really want to take want your right tackle to have to spend the number 7 pick in the draft to get a right tackle? Like really? Like really? We have to use our first round pick every year in order to build an offensive line. We can't find anyone in the second or third round that could just be solid. So then we could use that number 7 pick and actually get a good receiver or a great tight end or trade back and get another pick and get Warren. Like we never get to do we never get to do that. We never get to fill in any position with a second, third round pick. It always has to be a first round pick. Like I'm tired of that. There are good tackles in this draft that I don't think are that far away or that off of of the guys you can get at number 7. Like I think that in the second round you might be able to get a Naj or Justin Connolly or Ozzy Trapilo in the third round. Maybe even if they took him in the second round, I wouldn't even complain because that means they love him and they see what I see. Because so I only say third round for Ozzy because I think it's possible, and I would love to be sneaky and be able to get an Xavier Watts and Ozzy. So let's see. These Jets want to win now. They don't want to spend 3 more years developing a quarterback. Well, it's more than just developing a quarterback. What if it misses? Right? 50% chance, like automatically 50% chance it misses. That's what's worse. It misses. Now you've wasted 3 years and you still got a quarterback problem. Missing on Zach Wilson devastated this franchise. Devastated it. The whole thing was killed because Zach Wilson. If Zach Wilson would have developed into a great quarterback, we're in a different world right now. We're living in a different world if he would have worked out. But he didn't. And that's that. Free agent wide receivers pretty much suck. Too old or hurt. I agree. It's not a very good class. Or both. Maybe try to sign Patrick because he's a Glenn guy and good in the locker room. Exactly. Just a role player. Try to draft Pat Bryant and Nick Nash if available at the right time. Well, Nick Nash, I wouldn't. You gotta, fifth round at the earliest. Like, and I love I'm a Nick Nash guy. I mean, Nick Nash. I'm a Nick Nash guy. I'm a Nick Nash guy. He's an hour and 20 minutes away from me, right? San Jose State. San Jose State. I used to watch them play when I lived in San Jose. He doesn't play against any competition. That's a concern, right? We have not seen him against any cornerback who's going to be drafted into the NFL. That's not a small thing. Like you have to understand that, right? What I like about him is he's only played wide receiver for a little over a year. He's a quarterback. And when you look at what he's done at wide receiver, switching from quarterback in just 1 year, it's pretty incredible. And he has things that don't have slumps. Like, you know what I mean? Like having height, size, hops, athleticism, that doesn't have a slump. That's a real thing, no matter who you're playing against. I think he's a good throw of the dart. I think you bring in a guy like that, Nash, but Nash is a developmental guy. Like he's a project. You're not going to rely on him year 1 to do much, but maybe year 2 he starts to see the field. Maybe year 3 suddenly, oh, we found a guy. Like that's how I see that. Z. What I love about if we have Ozzy on the team, the thing that I would love about it is we could play Crazy Train from Ozzy Osbourne. Like when the team comes out, when they show Ozzy coming onto the field, they should play Crazy Train. Crazy, but that's how it goes. And you know what? He plays like that. He's violent with his hands. Violent hands, guys. He looks like a boxer. He beats the shit out of the defender. Like he's pounding with his hands. He's very violent, very handsy. I like it. I like it. He's quick. He's a really good sound player. Really well coached. Really got a really good foundation there. And he's a really good athlete, fast, not afraid to mix it up, not afraid of contact. Love the player. Love him. I don't think he's going to be. If we didn't bring back Morgan and we started him day one, understand that there's going to be some tough times. He's going to have to adjust to right tackle. He's going to have to adjust to that strength level. But like every other player has to adjust. Not everyone starts off a star. Harlan says, howdy, folks. Good to see you here, Harlan. It's good to see you here. Anyway, I've been at this for a long time. So we talked about Justin Fields. I think that, I'm not that emotional about it because to me, we're not getting our quarterback until 26 anyway. I don't think we're solving our quarterback issue until 2026 anyway. I don't think the real move is coming until 2026. So I just don't feel married to any decision that we make because it's just a temporary thing. Yeah, I'd like to be competitive next year. I'm hoping they bring in a guy, and whoever they bring in, I hope they're right, and I hope he's, makes us competitive. But I don't think it's the future. I think the future is 26. I really do. The Jets should always be looking for the best free agent quarterback they can sign. Creating quarterbacks is not something we want to do anymore. Drafting quarterbacks is not well. We do want to draft a quarterback in 2026 if we're able to. I don't want to draft the number 8 guy. I'm not saying draft anybody just because it's the year 2026. Obviously, it has to be the guy we like. But I don't know most teams that win Super Bowls, most teams that build long-term winners, most teams do it when they draft a quarterback. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers when they were really winning and winning Super Bowls, it was Ben Roethlisberger, a guy they drafted. Right? Back in the 70s, when it was Bradshaw, Terry Bradshaw, they drafted him. I'm not saying it's always the case. Tampa caught Tom Brady at the end and had a great team to put around him. But, how many Super Bowls did New England win? 6? With Tom Brady, and they drafted him. Kansas City Chiefs, they drafted him. So there was always going to be outliers. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl. How'd they get Hurts? Oh, they drafted him. You see the pattern here? See the pattern? The best team the Jets ever had. Like when we went to 2 AFC championships games in a row. Wasn't the greatest quarterback we've ever had. Wasn't the greatest quarterback at all. But we drafted him. Right? It was a guy we got in the draft. Buffalo's competing for Super Bowls now with a quarterback that they drafted. Baltimore is making the playoffs and going deep and competing for a Super Bowl every year to make the Super Bowl. Quarterback that they drafted. Cincinnati went to a Super Bowl. They haven't been able to put the team around them again, but it's because they have a great quarterback. They drafted that quarterback. Right? So Detroit's an outlier, but you know what? They took a quarterback that they drafted and they traded him for a younger quarterback. And that's how they got Goff. So they didn't get some guy that's 35 that's looking for a job. They didn't get some guy that's looking to retire. They got a guy who had already been to a Super Bowl and lost. And so he already had a good acumen. He wasn't a great quarterback, but he was solid. He fit the system they wanted to run, right? But there's your one outlier, and they haven't been to a Super Bowl, and I don't even think they've won a playoff game. Well, maybe they won one, but then they lost to Washington. So that didn't work out. Washington, by the way, now a competitor, suddenly a team people are excited about. They got a quarterback, and how'd they get him? They drafted him. Like, don't tell me you don't draft quarterbacks. The Chargers look like they're going to be competitive over the next bunch of years because they have a quarterback, Justin Herbert. They drafted him. Denver made the playoffs, shocked everybody, even though they had to eat $100 million for that they burned on Russell Wilson. And that's a double example. They went out and got Russell Wilson, a Super Bowl quarterback, did crap, had to eat $100 million, went out, got a quarterback who brought them to the playoffs. How'd they get that quarterback? They drafted him. Am I making my point? I mean, like, you know, San Francisco 49ers, they drafted two. The one they traded all that draft capital to get didn't work out. But then they got a guy who was able to do it, make them competitive, get them to a Super Bowl. How'd they get that guy? They drafted him. We could just go on. You want to go through history and start looking at players throughout history, looking at Super Bowl teams through history. I think that you have to draft quarterbacks. Like, I don't think you should give up drafting quarterbacks. I think, well, I don't think that's the only way, Billy. I think that we could draft a quarterback in 26 because we have to see if we're able to get anybody to trade with us right now, right? Because we might be able to trade back, and even if it's just a second round pick next year, if we were to couple our first round pick and a second round pick, we might be able to move up. If you're talking, because there might be 5 really good quarterbacks next year, and you know that might drop down to the pick 10, 11, or 12. And if we're at pick 15 or 16, we might be able to trade to 10 and with a number 2 pick. Like, let's swap picks and we'll give you our number 3 this year or 4 this year, and we'll give you our number 2 next year. And then you might find a team willing to do that, if they already have their quarterback. So there are ways. Also, I want to say that this next year is going to be a year where there's 5 to 6 or 5 to even 7 really good quarterbacks. Kansas City drafted the best, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, or arguably the best, Patrick Mahomes. In I think what they pick him, 24, 25 or something like that. Aaron Rodgers was the 28th pick, I think, or something. He was kind of at the end there. Jordan Love was a late first round pick. He's pretty good. There's Lamar Jackson was the end of the first round. So there's a lot of end of the first round quarterbacks in the NFL right now that are pretty darn good. So that's why I said you have to love him. You can't take him just because he's part of the 26th class. But you never know that one of the quarterbacks we really love next year, like one of the guys we check off as draftable, a guy that we would want, might be the 5th quarterback taken next year. And that might be at pick 15 or 14. And that might be the New York Jets. And how many games are we really going to win this year anyway? I mean, I know I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. Wah, wah. But, the reality is there's a very good chance we're going to win 4 games next year. I mean, I hate to agree. I know he was going on a tirade and, he was screaming and yelling. He was upset. Jake Asman, and he was saying we're not going to win more than 4 games next year. And part of me got bothered by that because I said, you don't know that. But it's kind of true. We might only win 4 games next year. It's very true. And if that's true, that means we're going to have like a top 8 pick again, and then we're definitely going to get a quarterback. Because there'll be teams that draft a quarterback this year that are going to be bad still next year. So it's not going to be that if we had the 7th pick next year, you're not going to have 6 teams ahead of us that all need quarterback. Because some of them are going to be a team that already drafted a quarterback. And they just were a rookie. Right? You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be some team that drafts Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and they're not going to turn that team around in 1 year. Right? The team still might be bad. So, it doesn't... There might be bad teams that are not looking to draft a quarterback. next year. So even if we don't pick in the top five, it doesn't mean we're not going to get a quarterback because there's always some teams, right? So got to think positively. Tom Bon Jovi is in here, I think. He's saying 4 wins is better than 3, right? That is how I survive as a Jets fan. 4 wins means next year's draft is fun. That's what it means. 4 wins means we're definitely still looking for a quarterback, right? That's what 4 wins means. We're looking for a quarterback for sure. And I would think, unless we draft one like Dak Jackson's art or Cam Ward, give up the farm for him, win 4 games, which means they failed and the plan failed, and that we're eating shit, and we probably won't draft one because the Moogie's not going to want to admit he made a mistake. He's going to want to give that quarterback another chance, and we're going to be in hell. Or we get a Justin Fields, or we get some guy, Justin Winston. We win 4 to 5 games. We get a top 10 pick. Maybe because we traded down, or maybe we even use our second round pick next year and we trade up a few spots, make sure we get a quarterback that we love. And then that's when it starts. That's when the real new New York Jets starts. That's when this regime really gets going. This year is just to fill in some roster spots, bring in some more good young players to the locker room, change the culture of the locker room. But we might not win a lot of games. I hope I'm wrong. If Fields is signed, would you rather draft threat tight end Warren? Okay, wide receivers or top wide receiver T-Mac, or okay, mediocre tight end? I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. I think as long as we get a premier tight end and some kind of receiver, or T-Mac, Egbuka if we trade back, find the best you can at wide receiver. And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be... We don't know that Warren and even Loveland are going to be the best receiving tight ends in this draft. They probably are, but maybe not. Like, you have to remember, most of the time, there's some guy we didn't think of that ends up being the best. In most draft classes, the OT1 or the tight end 1 or the wide receiver 1 in the draft, most of the time does not beat out the whole field. They're not better than everyone in the field. That's what happens most of the time. Somebody is better that was drafted later. There are 8 to 10 really good tight ends coming out in this draft that could be very good. Harold Fannin might be a great receiving tight end. Mason Taylor might be a great receiving tight end. Terrence Ferguson from Oregon might be a great tight end. Gunnar Helms might be a great tight end. Arroyo from Miami might be a great tight end. There's a lot of guys who potentially could be 700 plus yards, 8 touchdown receiving type tight ends. So you might not have to get Warren. So you might be able to get T-Mac and a guy like that. So there's different ways to skin a cat. Or you get Tyler Warren and you get the guaranteed solid stud tight ends. And then maybe you get lucky and you get Jalen Higgins from Iowa State in the 3rd round, right? Or maybe you get, maybe you bring him, maybe you hit on the 2nd or 3rd round on a wide receiver. You just never know. Brady is selected in round 6. Well, we know about that. Prescott was taken in round 4. Yeah, these are guys. Kirk Cousins was a 5th round pick, right? Brock Purdy was the last pick of the 7th round. Again, but those are long shots, right? Those are long shots. So you have to understand that those are outliers because, there are 4 or 5 quarterbacks that you could name that were in the mid to late rounds in the last 25 years. You could name 5 that are good, right? But you're forgetting about the 100 that are bad. So you can't forget about the 100 that are bad. So percentage-wise, you have much less likely to hit on a quarterback in the 4th or 5th round. What we know is that it's not impossible. So we know it's not impossible, and we know that teams have done it. But don't let that, wash over the fact and make you think, oh, you're just as likely to find a good quarterback in the 4th or 5th round as you are in the 1st round. That's not true. That's statistically false. You have a much better chance of finding your franchise quarterback in the 1st round. Most franchise quarterbacks in the NFL between now and the last 30 years, if you wrote them all down, most of them are first round. Or maybe even if you said no, it's 48%. Okay, but then 20% of the second round, right? And 20, but the thing is, it wins in percentage. It's the best round, the highest, most successful round, and this is probably true with every position in the NFL. It's the most successful rounds of every position, the first round. So if you're going by percentages and chances of hitting, you want to get a first round quarterback, right? You could take, but you could take a quarterback in the fourth round and roll the dice and hope that you find your Kirk Cousins or your Tom Brady. Tom Brady. Billy is talking to Harlan. Yeah, so Billy is saying it. Those are outliers, right? It's not a strategy of how you get your quarterback. I look. You want to take a quarterback in the fourth round every single year until you have your hit. Fine. I mean, if that, I think it's going to hurt you though, because I think the fourth round you still get good starters that come out of the fourth round. You still get good role players in the NFL. I think that people undervalue picks, and when they say, "Oh, it's only a fourth round pick," I think that that's because you're a Jet fan and you don't realize it. But there's a lot of good teams out there that they fill their roster over the years with fourth round picks, and they do really well. New England used to build their team and maintain their dominance with comp picks that were third, fourth round comp picks. Like they would get pick number 105 or pick one, and they would keep their team. They would just next man up. They would find quality guys. The Rams haven't had a top 30 pick, and before last year, maybe I didn't even know if they had it last year, but they went like 6 years without a number one pick, without a first round pick, because they're so good at drafting, so good. I just think they have a guy like Dom C. I just think those teams have a guy that's not lazy, that really watches all the film and doesn't just cheat and look at the hype, go with the highlights, and call it a day, because that makes their job easy. Can you imagine a scout just bullshitting it? Like, because any of us could be a scout and bullshit it, maybe, and we might be okay and keep our jobs, right? Like, if we just listen to what we're seeing on YouTube, it might work out. I mean, you could read walterfootball.com and say, okay, let's just take that guy. They seem to know what they're talking about, and it might work out. And then you look like you're a smart scout. I mean, you could take somebody else's write-up from Draft Buzz and just write your own version of that write-up and pretend you did your work and say, here's this guy. This is what's good about him. I think, and I believe 100%, because I know it's true, because in every field, in every job, there are those kind of employees. So you don't think there are scouts out there that are doing that and just stealing what people are writing because they're too fucking lazy to sit there and watch film for hours? And I think it's what proves it to me is Dom C is like so much better. It feels like he's so much better than the average football team, because every year he nails these guys that slip to the third, fourth rounds. He has them ranked higher, and then he's right about it. And it's like, what the hell was them? And we sit there and shake our heads and say, what were all these teams thinking? Like, why didn't they take this guy? And there was a guy, this year it's Miles Frazier. Last year it was the other Frazier, Zach Frazier. And he's like one of the top rookies of the year, one of the top offensive lineman rookies of the year at guard. And we could have had him in the mid rounds, and Dom C knew all about it. And we all were excited about him, that we're taking him in mock drafts. So I believe you could find good players if you just have a real scouting department and guys who really work hard and really watch film, because they're there. They really are there. And I think the reason they're there is because they didn't get the hype. And a lot of guys and a lot of teams seem to just be taking players that are based on hype, like Mel Kiper's board. I know it's a crazy thing to say, but that's how I feel sometimes when I watch some of the picks and teams, when I watch some of the guys that people rank highly and say, why are they ranked so high? And the only explanation is just, it's like a hype machine, So we jumped up 90 spots. Harlan Fannin, I used to think as a second round pick, he might be gettable in the third round. I don't know if we need to take Fadden in the second round. If we don't take Warren, I think I'd wait to the third round and just take like Mason Taylor or Terrence Ferguson or Aurelio. I mean, the third round, now that we're at 72, that's the biggest difference with 72. If you want to take a position where it's going to matter, tight ends. There's so many good tight ends that may have went off the board in between 72 and 90. They're right around that range, and now we jumped up and we can get our choice of them. So I'm excited about that. I would also like to see Holland come here, but 20K is a lot of cheddar. 20 million, yeah. Yeah, 20 million is a lot of cheddar. It is, because we have a lot of needs. So it's a lot. What sucks is we're burning like 9 million in dead cap on Devontae Adams. That ends. We're gonna burn like 6 million on Lazard when we cut him. So that's like freaking $15 million, man, that we could have used for a player. That could have been our safety. So unfortunately, that's why I get so upset when people say, well, so trade for this guy, trade for that guy, sign that guy. And it's like, and you don't look at their contracts. You don't realize the teams that are trading those guys are trading them for what seems to be cheap prices because of their contracts. Everybody was like, how did we get him? How did we get Devontae Adams for that little for a third round pick? Because that fucking contract that now we now have to burn $9 million to get rid of a guy who played 8 games for us. In a year, we won 5 games. Sucks. It's going to be the same old Jets. Well, at least for another year, probably. But it doesn't have to be the same old Jets. Like we could win 6 games and it could feel different. It is possible. I don't know how that is yet. I haven't had that yet. I mean, I haven't seen the Jets have a year where they win 6 games, and I'm not saying same old Jets, but it's possible. Because the funny thing is it doesn't matter how we lose. No matter how we lose, we say same old Jets. If we lose by a field goal, same old Jets. If we lose by 40 points, same old Jets. If we lose by 2 touchdowns, same old Jets. No matter what we do, when we don't win, we say same old Jets. It's the outlook. The outlook for next season is not good. And I'm not trying to be negative, but it's really not good. Now that could change, and I might feel more encouraged after free agency and the draft, based on the moves we make and what happens. But there's nobody can make an argument to me that things are good right now. That like we're going to win 9-10 games. We got a good shot. Like in what world? Like this feels like the same old Jets. This is just another year where it doesn't look like we can be like it doesn't look like there's any hope. Like what's going to make us compete? It's like, we have Garrett Wilson, we have Joe Tippmann, we have Sauce Gardner. Yeah, we had them last year and we won 5 fucking games. So don't tell me who we have. We have less this year. We lost players. Yeah, mess. I agree. We need everything to hit to make the playoffs. But here's the thing. On top of everything hitting, part of that hitting has to be Aaron Glenn is a great coach. Like he has to be a great coach that completely changes the culture, that turns them into winners, right? So you know how great of a coach you have to be to come in and do that your first year, to convert them into winners? So Aaron Glenn has to be a great coach, and everything has to work out. We have to sign the right safety. We have to find the right quarterback for this team, for a bridge quarterback. We have to hit on the draft, on our draft picks. We have to do everything right. And if we do everything right, maybe we sneak in 9 games, 9-8, 10-7. Maybe we sneak into a playoff team. And that is such a big if. It's not impossible. Football teams do it all the time. But it's really, really a big if. Because more than likely, we are going to suck next year. Like, we're just going to suck. More than likely. Because I've been through this enough times. And there's nothing telling me it's going to be different. Like, I want it to be different. I'll root for it to be different. But nothing says this is different. Nothing. A year ago, I thought we were winning 12 to 14 games. Convinced of it. Aaron Rodgers played all 17 games. We won 5 games. So there's no way I'm going to believe we're magically going to be a playoff team next year. Do I believe it's possible? Yes, I wouldn't be a fan if I didn't. But I'm preparing and I am bracing for a very long year. I stopped focusing on wins and losses. It's about building the right way. And I think that's really the only choice we have. Dano, I agree. I think the only real choice we have, or the real hope that we have, or thing that could make us not crazy, is to just hope that we build the right way. Because for the people who are going to get upset when we start losing, for the people that are going to be freaking out in the chat when we're losing, when it's game 3 and when it's game 5 and we're 1-4 or whatever, and we're losing game 6, and everyone's in the chat cursing and screaming and being angry and everything like that, I'm going to look at them and say, what did you think was going to happen? I know we were hoping for something better, but did you really think this team was going to do anything? Like, the bottom line is, what you have to be looking at is, who did we draft? How are they doing? Who did we bring in and how are they doing? What is Garrett Wilson doing? Is he on the sideline screaming and cursing? Or is he sitting there really like pumping guys up, talking to younger guys, part of the mission, understanding, yeah, this is going to take some time, but we're heading the right direction. Like, we have the right culture, the players, this is the right coaching staff. And we have some holes. We still need to find our guy at quarterback, but I could see that the team is going in the right direction from an attitude, from a culture. Right? That's what we have to look at. Now, I hope we're not 1-4. I hope we could win, I hope we can like be 1-3 and then, 3-5 and then, 4-7 if we're only going to win, a certain amount of games. Like, I hope we could, stay somewhat not a joke, 6-10, and then we lose the last game or something. Like, I hope that it's just not disgusting. I hope it's not disgusting. Maybe we could be 4-4 and then lose a bunch of 5 games in a row or something. So at least when we're 4-4, we're talking like we have a real team. And then say, yeah, we fell apart. We couldn't hold it. We didn't have the talent yet. But you could see the coaches made a difference. We were 4-4. We were believing. We were finding a way to win games. Now we just need to find our quarterback and build, and fill in a couple more. I just hope I hope we have hope. I hope next year is just not a disaster, where there's no indication that we're going to be good, where none of our draft picks look that good. No, I hope that would be the worst. That would be the worst. I think you guys are talking about Aaron Glenn. Is someone saying that Glenn is not an amped up guy? Because Glenn is one thing. Glenn is you like Vrabel. Like, if you like anything about Vrabel, if you like anything about any of the former players who've been good coaches, like, as far as that part of it, like being amped up, being strong headed, and like fucking kick ass and like tons of energy, like that is Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is a bundle of energy. He's gonna be going nuts. He's intense. He's full of energy, super high expectations, super high accountability guy. Like, everyone's going to be very accountable for what they do. I could promise you those things for Aaron Glenn. The question is he going to be the leader? Is he going to do it in a way that builds a strong locker room? Is he going to is he hiring the right coordinators? Are we going to come in with the right strategies? Is he going to manage the clock well? Is he going to manage the game well? Is he going to keep the guy's head in the game? Is he going to get the best out of our players? And I don't mean get the best out of the individual players. I know people say, players shouldn't need a coach to motivate them. I'm not talking about that. When I say get the best out of our players, I'm talking about where they're playing on the field, the scheme that they're in. Like, it's more than just the players being motivated. They have to be used the right way. For example, I think Sauce Gardner is going to be better. because I think that they're going to use him the right way. I think Aaron Glenn is going to know how to coach him and know how to get the best out of him, because they're going to give and they're going to use him the right way. Did I say that? I'll say it 50 times. They're going to use him the right way, because we were so stupid with Sauce Gardner, the way we used him. Every time he played zone, it was stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Put him on their best receiver and call it a day. And I hope he's good at it, and I hope he has a good year and all that and everything. But I mean, it's like, to me, there was some things that are so obvious, it's like ridiculous to me, and I can't say it in a calm way. How is there any argument to that? How is there any argument to that? You have Sauce Gardner on your team. Even in his worst year, where idiotic fans who know nothing about football are saying trade him, even in his worst year, he's still the third best coverage cornerback in the league. In his worst year and a horrible year where I blame the coaches. Because if you took all this nonsense and this and you're in zone and now you're doing this. No. That's the guy you're covering today. Wherever he goes, that's where you go. That's how you use Sauce Gardner. It's the most obvious thing in the world. Who's the receiver for Buffalo that you want to stop next year? That's who you put Sauce Gardner in. When we play Miami, is it still Hill? Is he still there? Is it Waddle? Who's hurting you? Who's the guy you need to shut down next year? That's who you put Sauce Gardner on. That's it. Done. He covers their best receiver. That's it. Take that guy out of the game. That's what you do with with Sauce Gardner. Garrett Wilson's the opposite. Garrett Wilson is the first receiver you look at in every progression. Every progression, when you snap the ball, the first place you're looking is Garrett Wilson, the way he gets off the line of scrimmage. And if he gets the quick release and you could see he's got the position, throw the ball to where he's going. Every time. The way the Vikings do it with Justin Jefferson. We have a guy who has the potential to be elite. Make him elite. How many times was Rodgers going back, we're going to call the play, and he's not? Can we see Garrett Wilson standing alone in the fucking end zone, and he throws the ball to his buddy? And it's an interception. Like, are you kidding me? Like, there's such obvious things that we can fix on this team to let our stars be real stars. Sauce Gardner should not play zone. Sauce Gardner should cover the other team's best receiver. Done. In the way he feels the most comfortable doing it. If he's good at press, let him play press. Players know what they're good at. When you played football, you played baseball, any of you didn't know what you were good at. You didn't know what you were more comfortable at doing. You didn't know where you excelled. Of course he knows. Let him cover the guy the way he needs to cover the guy. If he realizes I can't press this guy, he's too fast, I need to step back, I need to adjust his speed, watch his hips, fine. But if he says this guy can't burn me and I want to play up and hit him at the line of scrimmage and not let him get off the line of scrimmage quickly, then you let him do that. You let him do what he likes to do. He's that kind of player. He's that kind of special. That you let him excel the way he excels. And it's the same thing with Garrett Wilson. You treat him like an elite receiver. You look to him every play. You force the defense to put everything they have to stop him. And that's how you open up everybody else. That's how you make your number 2 receiver a good one. Because they're putting so much focus on this other guy that somebody's being left alone. Whether it's a tight end, whether it's the running back or the WR2 or the slot receiver, somebody's being neglected. Because you're forcing the other team to put so much of their resources into your star. We did not utilize our stars. We held them back. And if Garrett Wilson wasn't open every play, I wouldn't say that. I'd say, no, that's who he is. He's an 1,100-yard receiver, but he's not. Because when you watch the film, he was wide open over and over again, and we wouldn't throw him the ball. And that is so aggravating. Why didn't we just throw him the ball? Throw it to him every time until they cover him. Until they figure out how to cover him, throw him the ball. And that's why Garrett Wilson was mad, and that's why I'm not mad at Garrett Wilson for being mad. Because how frustrated would you be If you were open every freaking player all the time and your quarterback just wouldn't throw you the ball. So Garrett Wilson would say, I cut in, the coverage was on the outside of me as I was cutting left. Freaking throw me a lead pass. I have position. The guy's not going to beat me. And how many times I watched him run that route where he cuts to the left and the cornerback is on the outside to the right of him with no chance. And all you have to do is throw him a slant. And we didn't do it. It's unbelievable how badly coached this team was. And that's the only reason. I know he's the most talented quarterback we've ever had. He's the third best season we've ever had. But my God, what was he doing? Why didn't he just throw it to Garrett Wilson? And then when he did, it worked. That's what's so frustrating. I'm going nuts right now. If Glenn could get the Detroit defense to the NFC Championship game a few months ago with all those injuries, yes, people forget that. What he got out of that Detroit defense was amazing, by the way. It's true. Yeah, Wild Wave, you know it. He should have had 14 to 1,500 yards. That's why he was so upset. It was so freaking irritating. Yeah, Aaron Glenn knows how to win. He remembers winning. I don't know if Morgan Moses wants to go to a contender. I mean, versus just coming to the Jets, where he's the leader of 4 young men that he gets along with. He's part of a squad. As long as we pay him competitive money, it's a great part of the country to live in. I don't know that he doesn't want to be part of turning it around, and I don't know why we're automatically saying that at 34 it has to be his last year even. Like, that's not what the Rams did with their old veteran right tackle. They let him go till he was 40. I mean, why can't we stop? Why can't we move on from Morgan Moses when he's not able to play well anymore? Like, can we do that? Can we watch and see how he does? He doesn't put up the best PFF score. He's not this dominant right tackle. He's a leader, though. He's a warrior. He leads the battle, and he does good enough. I think you try to go year by year with him, but you might have to guarantee him some money. So even if you cut him in 26 he gets a couple of $1 million, fine. You got to do what you got to do. Re-sign Moses and draft a right tackle too. Yeah, kind of like the Olu. I like the Olu strategy, right? Like, I like the strategy of, we have a veteran, but we're going to sign the future. And if he has to play year 1 because somebody gets hurt, fine. If he doesn't, let him develop for a year. That's why Ozzy is such a perfect thing. Bring in the crazy train, baby. Bring in the crazy train. Yeti. Yes, Billy, exactly. Oh, wait a second. I'm going to do something right now. Oh, yeah, baby. Let's see. Look at that. Watch this. Hey, Dano, send me a chat, Dano. Say something in the chat. Say something, Dano. Dano boy, say something. Chat again. I couldn't pay a safety 20. That's tough. No, you don't want to pay a safety 20 million. We can't afford to do that. There's 4 safeties that we could pay in the range of 12 to 15 million. So, like, there's no reason. There you go, Dano. Do you notice anything? That's right, baby. That's right. Sorry it took so long. I thought I already had you. Joe the Jets will be there. He's at 7. Who will the Jets take if he's there at 7? Clancy, Sanders. I think there's a 50% chance we take Shedeur Sanders if he's there at 7. I just don't know if they like him or not. I mean, Aaron Glenn was goofing around with him or something. I heard that they kind of hit it off. So, and I Sanders. No one said anything about not wanting to play for the Jets either. Like, there was no. That didn't get out. Dion didn't say it. Nobody said anything anti-Jets. I think that they said very complimentary things about Aaron Glenn. So, I think it's 50-50. I honestly do. Um, uh, and by the way, everybody, I hope you don't get offended. I can't give everybody the wrench. I give it mostly to people who have their own channel because they understand like kind of the rules. Like if they have the perspective of who they understand not to just block someone for saying that they don't like or says one bad thing. Like they know about timeouts, and then they know about when you actually block someone. When this person, Jeremy's better off without him, but based on their experience running their own channel. So that's why. But I don't want to offend anybody. If you've been following me a long time and it means a lot to you, send me a message. If it really means a lot for you to be a moderator, I'll make it happen for you. But it's just you can't make a million moderators because you have to understand you're giving them a lot of power to block people. And blocking people, I have people who've been here a long time, and sometimes we go at it, and they say something that might, make if you have five moderators or six moderators, one of them might say, "Oh, then block that asshole," and it's like, no, no, you just blocked one of my like a supporter of the channel for 3 years. Like that's not okay. So that's why I just can't make anybody a moderator. You know what I mean? I need somebody who just kind of like understands the game a little bit, and has been around me and understands, the who's who and who everybody is and all that stuff. Because I have some people who come in here and give me a hard time, but I don't want to block them. Like they do it in a way that it's like, okay, that's just the relationship I have with them. And then there are the guys that are like that go over the line that are here to that are here for no good reason. So but anyway, if it means a lot to you, let me know, guys. Aaron Rodgers was playing too much buddy ball with Lazard and Adams. I think there was a lot of I think there was evidence that he definitely was forcing things like, oh, I want him to have my 100th touchdown, or I think there were things like that was going on. That's how it felt. It really did feel that way. I don't care if you really are throwing to the open guy, but there was just too many times that where Garrett Wilson was the open guy and you didn't throw it to him, and it just didn't make any sense to me. I thought that they had a great relationship initially, and then the relationship went to crap. I mean, I don't think that's a rumor. I mean, I think that's a very real thing. I think Garrett Wilson is like the happiest person alive right now that Aaron Rodgers is gone. I do not think they got along. And I don't think that Garrett Wilson wanted to come back if Devontae and Rodgers were back. I don't think he wanted any part of it because I think, he's going into year 4. It's enough already. He's already put up 3 1,000-yard seasons. Enough already. He's not going to tolerate a quarterback who's throwing it to Devontae Adams, a guy who's definitely out of his prime. It's like over a guy who's going into his prime. Like I think that the one good thing I'm happy about is Garrett Wilson is the clear number one again. The clear number one. And no matter who we get, it's a compliment to our number one receiver. And we need to treat him like that, and we need to allow him to become elite. Because we are holding him back. And I know it sounds crazy because he has 3 1,000-yard plus seasons, but I am telling you, we are holding him back. Without question. We had the worst quarterback play for the first 2 years of his career in the NFL, and he still broke 1,000 yards. Everybody knew he was getting the ball, and he still broke 1,000 yards. He's special, and we are wasting him. We need to extend him, and we need to throw him the ball. I don't want him to have to say it. I don't want him to have to write a book called Throw Me the Goddamn Ball. I don't want him to have to do it. We should need to figure it out. Throw him the ball. When you watch the Detroit Lions, when Amon St. Brown was open, they threw him the ball. They forced the opponent to cover him. And when they covered him and focused on him, they ate people alive with Sam Laporta. And every once in a while, they'd go to Jameson Williams, and they made it work. You know why Porter's production went down a little bit? The reason his production went down a little bit is because people realized we can't just do everything we can to take St. Brown out of the game, right? We have to focus on this kid Laporta. So of course it was, he was still good, but he wasn't as unstoppable as he was because the defenses were starting to pay more attention to him, right? So what did they do? They make you pay with St. Brown. It should be the same thing with Tyler Warren and Garrett Wilson. If we were to draft Tyler Warren, it's the same thing. You're going to focus and double team Garrett Wilson. We're going to kill you with Tyler Warren. We are going to destroy you with him. We will throw it to him all day long, just like Penn State and Drew Aller did. We will throw it to him all day until you stop him. And the second you have to start to stop him and focus on him, you're not going to be able to focus as much on Garrett Wilson. And now we're going to throw the ball to him. And we're going to make your life hell. And if you want to focus on both of those guys, then Breece Hall's going to freaking run around the field and we're going to just dump the ball at him. Right? Or it's going to be Braylon Allen, or it's going to be whoever our WR2 is. Or we're going to finally use this guy Corley. Get him on the field and let him do something. Do you think JSN can handle being the guy? He seems a lot like Garrett. So does he get 1,100 yards? Well, he's more of a slot, though, isn't he? Like, can he play the boundary? I think he's more of a slot. Now, a slot can get over 1,000 yards, but you have to run that kind of offense for him. Like, are they going to run 11 personnel all the time so he's on the field? I can't see him as a boundary receiver. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people disagree, and maybe I'm completely wrong. But my impression is that JSN is slot only, right? I don't think he's really a boundary receiver. So I don't, it's a hard thing to say. Can he be that guy? Like they're going to need a boundary receiver. So, but he could be their most productive receiver. He could be their number one target. Of course. It won't be as easy as some think for JSN, but yet you wanted him back. How about running the ball? Yeah, running the ball would be nice. I mean, I'm talking about Harlem when we're passing. Look, more than any one player, the best thing you could do to make our defense better, in my opinion, the best way to make our defense better is not even a player. There's no one player that makes our defense better than time of possession. If we were to shift our time of possession, which is usually less than 30 minutes, we're usually at a disadvantage. If we could hold the ball for 34 minutes, if we can win time of possession 34-26, that is more valuable than any defensive player. Like that is more of a difference maker, in my opinion. In my opinion, there's nothing like keeping their offense off the field. Like right off the bat, 34-26 is one less drive that they have to try to score, less chance for them to get the rhythm, keeping our defense fresh, our defense not as tired. So to me, it's as big as anything else. Something just happened. Can someone check and see what's going on with Sherwood? Did Sherwood just sign with us? I just saw a chat thing go out from Tigo screaming about Sherwood. So I don't know if it was he heard a rumor or something official happened, but I'm online. I can't see right now. So I'm like this. I'm going crazy. Can somebody check it and see if there was any news on Sherwood? Because I just saw something go down. I know Mess is on Twitter. Any of you got Dano's here. Dano, what's going on with Sherwood? Find out what's going on with Sherwood. It could be nothing. Tigo does that. It's really annoying. We have a group chat, so he could just be being Tigo. Like he just wrote something and put exclamation points. But I saw the name Sherwood with 3 exclamation points, and that's all I caught. So I'm trying to figure out what happened. Wild Wave is saying nothing is going on. Okay, typical Tigo. Tigo, Wild Wave. Tigo is just, yeah, exactly. Tigo, you. But anyway, because I think because he's our player, we're allowed to, we could extend him or sign him early, right? We don't have to wait until free agency, or is it too late for that? Are we like everybody else? We're not even allowed to talk to him. I don't even know. I don't even know. I'm not even sure. I know he's not under contract, so like that might mean we're not even allowed to talk to him. But I thought maybe you're allowed to talk to your own players. Nothing on Twitter. Well, if there's nothing on Twitter, then it's not real. Then I don't know what he was yelling about. It might be nothing, but like it's like we're all connected to all the guys on Twitter that tell us what's going on. Like I mean, if something was going on, Rich Samini would have it all over the place. Um, yeah, we can talk to our own players until Monday. Thanks, Wildway. That's what I thought. So there is a possibility that somebody like Eccles, like there's a chance we could like announce that somebody's staying, right? Before the actual thing. Oh, of course, because we're talking to Morgan Moses, right? Just because that alone tells you we're allowed to talk to him. Okay. Thoughts on John Kitna being a potential option at quarterback for us? Is that a joke? Kitna's not still in the NFL, is he? Isn't Kitna from years ago? Why is that? Why am I blanking on that? Like it feels like he's like from years and years ago. I think Jameis Winston is is not like a lie baloney thing. He's kidding. Okay, you're kidding, Johnny boy. Um, I think that just Winston's like a real thing. Like there's a possibility that we really are inquiring as a backup plan. Um, I think that if Minnesota signs Sam Darnold, which is looking unlikely, but if Minnesota signs Sam Darnold and keeps him, and there's any buzz at all, anything about them letting McCarthy be on the trading block, I hope to God we make every freaking move imaginable to get him. You know, I mean, again, I'm not saying 3-1s or anything like that. It wouldn't take that anyway. Why would it? He was the number 10 pick who got hurt. So, I mean, even 7 is rich. Like we might trade, like imagine trading the number 7 pick for McCarthy to Minnesota, but also they have to throw back like a third rounder to us. Like I could see that being realistic. But even if it was a 7th straight up, I would do it. I love JJ McCarthy, but that's because I'm a JJ McCarthy guy. Like so if you love the guy, you do it. You know what I mean? Like there's no player I'd rather draft at 7 than just give me JJ McCarthy. But you have to be a JJ McCarthy guy. Some people don't like him. Some people don't think he's good. They're not in love with the prospect. I love the prospect. And what sucks is I was looking very correct until he got hurt. Like he was dominating camp. Like I don't know how many of you looked into it, but like, do you know what they were doing? Do you know how much they were raving about JJ McCarthy before he got hurt? Like there were people losing their shit, like thinking that they got the next big thing. Like they were going crazy about how good he was. Like he was dominating camp. So, yeah, I make that I take that chance. I trade for him. The free agent class isn't that great, so I'd honestly be cool if we slightly overpaid for Moses and Sherwood. Huh. Just got here. Don't know what I missed, but no, we cannot win with Justin Fields. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So just understand, the question was not long term. Are we going to be a great team with Justin Fields? Right? Like, I am 100%. Tigo, just so you know, my point was 100% that Justin Fields is not the answer. He's not the quarterback of the future. But my point was though that as a bridge quarterback, again, I don't think we're winning 8 games anyway. So, like, could he be the guy if we won 7 to 8, not just 4 to 5 games? Could it be because of Justin Fields? And I said, well, he's as good as anybody else out there, probably, or maybe. To be like, if there's a guy if there's a guy that can get us to 7 to 8 wins, I would argue that Justin Fields might be that guy over what's available, because there's nothing available. But Tigo, now that you're here, more importantly, what the fuck was that text you put out to the group that had Sherwood mentioned with 1,000,000 exclamation points? Because I thought we signed Sherwood thanks to you, and I'm doing this show so I couldn't check, and everybody's telling me there's nothing on Twitter. So do you mind explaining your Sherwood text to the group chat to Talking Jets and what the hell that was all about? Because all I saw was Sherwood exclamation points. Yeah. But again, Jameis Winston, Fields, Tyrod Taylor, if he stays healthy, they're bridge quarterbacks. Like Fields is a bridge quarterback. He's not the future. If we sign Justin Fields, it's not because we believe he's going to be the guy. He's the he's the freaking bridge quarterback first year, draft a quarterback. Maybe if they're not ready to start, he starts another year. Maybe he's your elite quarterback too. That's what he is. But you can't, after the 4 years so far of what we've seen of Justin Fields, tell me or convince me that he's going to be our franchise quarterback. No, that's not why we would sign him. We would sign him because we think he's the best possibility to turn the locker room around a little bit, give us a chance to win a few games. We're not winning anything real. 2025, it would be a miracle if we even snuck into a wild card spot. Let's be honest. We have not signed Sherwood, but according to Dick Chibney, the Jets are feeling a sense of urgency to keep Sherwood. Okay, cool. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. That's pretty good news. I'm excited about that. I'm a Sherwood guy. I would love to keep Sherwood. I think would be much better. I think he's one of the positives in the locker room. Like I think it's good to keep good players, and I think that we invested a lot the organization invested a lot in him. It would really be kind of shitty that he goes and becomes a great linebacker somewhere. We converted him. Our organization converted him. We invested in him. I would like to see the Jets become a team where guys like that work out. It's not certainly not going to work out with Tony Adams, so it may as well work out with Sherwood. We saw the best of Fields with a great franchise. That's not a great franchise. That's the thing that scares me. Like if you could keep your job at Pittsburgh, and you couldn't explode, it's like Chicago, fine, right? Chicago, it's like they're like us, right? Like Cleveland, Chicago Jets, right? The place quarterbacks go to die, right? Like that's where you go and you don't have a career, right? And then go everywhere else and you might be good. But you go to the Steelers and you lose your job to a very meh Russell Wilson, kind of makes you realize, Justin Fields is always going to be an exciting player because of his legs. As long as he's running and able to run the ball, he can do damage. He can hurt you. He can be a good backup quarterback that could win some games. But he clearly has limitations. He did not pan out in the sense that he is not a guy that's going to be able to drop back 3 to 5 steps and be a pocket quarterback. Like he's not going to be that quarterback and be effective. It's not who he is. He's going to be the guy you saw in college. He's going to be the guy that maybe can one read, maybe a check down, take off and run. That's what he is. He's not going to be a pocket passer. And I don't care. You're not winning a Super Bowl. And I don't want to hear about outliers. I don't care. If you're trying to build a franchise that has a realistic chance to be a championship contending team year after year and win a Super Bowl, you have to have a quarterback who could stand in the pocket and go through progressions like a real quarterback. He doesn't have to do it every play. He could be a guy with legs. He could be a mobile quarterback. He could be a guy that runs when things break down. He could see openings and take them, but he also has to be able to stand in the pocket and go through progressions and be a pocket quarterback, like almost every quarterback that proves they can win playoff games and Super Bowls. And that's all I got to say about that. I've been watching this game long enough, and I've seen it enough to know that a quarterback has to be able to stand in the pocket. Also, I'm not saying mobility is not great, but you gotta be able to be a good quarterback as a quarterback. That's what drives me crazy when I got people this guy or that guy or this guy. You got to be a good quarterback. You got to be able to stand back there. Now it gives. That's why if Ward went to 7, I'd be okay taking Ward. I wouldn't be it's not the thing I'm super excited to do, but I would be okay with it because, yes, his mobility gives you a better chance that he could be a guy that is not the best pocket passer, not the best guy who could step back and go through progressions and throw the ball, right? Maybe not the best at it, but his mobility makes him better than guys that are better than him at it because the mobility counts for something. But that's different because Cam Ward shows he could show vertical passes, right? Cam Ward could stand in the pocket and have touch and throw a vertical pass down the sideline, right? Justin Fields just doesn't do that enough, right? Like all of his tape from college to the NFL, it's just too he runs out of the pocket too soon. It's like, and that just doesn't work consistently in the NFL. That's my take on him. Let's see. I agree, Clancy, but Sherwood isn't Mosley. That's a not a fair comparison. Not at all. He's not Mosley. League average on missed tackle rate, 10%. You're out. Take care, Tigo. 18 total missed tackles was a lot by a total percentage. Yeah, look, I mean, Sherwood was getting. Understand one thing about Sherwood also. There's one thing we also have to say. He never really got, like, last year was the first year that he really got, like, a full, like, that he became the guy when we played base defense. Right. So he or he only used to be the guy when it was base defense. Right, Tigo. And when it was nickel, Sherwood would be the guy that came off the field. I think that this was the first year where he wasn't the one coming off the field. Right. So this was the first year where he started to get a real amount of reps. So, and he was a project. He was a safety turned into a linebacker. And I think he took a major step forward, like a major step of improvement. So I think the argument for Sherwood was he's still projecting upwards. You know what I mean? Like and it's not like because he didn't play a lot his first few years. He had injury. So he really there's still more space for him to hit his ceiling. And we're not talking about paying him 20 million plus, right? We're talking about paying Sherwood, I don't know, between 10 and 12. I originally said that he's going to cost about 12, 13, and everyone said, you're nuts. You don't know anything about what you're talking about. And I didn't argue because it's kind of true. I kind of don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to salary. And everybody was saying 7 to 8. And now I'm hearing that he's 10 to 13, which is funny to me because then it turns out that it looks like I was right. But I will admittedly say, I ask people. I have no idea how much people cost. I always ask people. Tigo's one of the people I ask. I'll do it all the time. He'll tell you. I'll text the group and I'll say, how much do you think this guy will cost? I'm not good at it. I'm not good at evaluating how much somebody costs. I mean, I'm good at knowing that Garrett Wilson is worth $30 million a year. Because I could see. I could see the trend that wide receivers that get over 1,000 yards a year that are young in their first contract are now going to get $30 million a year. Like, it might not be this year, but we're going to be there anyway in 2 years. So you may as well extend Wilson and give him the big contract. I'm not saying don't try to get him for 27 and with a lot of guarantee in an extra year or something like that. But at the end of the day, if he's demanding and the only way to extend him is $30 million a year, I'm doing it in a fucking heartbeat. I'm going to structure it in a Tigo kind of way that doesn't kill us in the next couple of years, like do one of those weird structured contracts, but do the 30 million per average, like just do it. He's the best wide receiver we've ever drafted. We've never had one start their career 1,000 plus yards. He had Zach Wilson and crew and crap his first 2 years of it and still got over 1,000 yards. He's open every freaking time I watch film, even though we don't throw him the ball. He's the most elite receiver I've ever seen in a Jets uniform since freaking Al Toon or Keshawn Johnson, and we should pay him the $30 million. And I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson, but I'm telling you that in 2 years, that's going to be the price of him anyway. And the elite wide receivers will get 35 to 40. So just lock him in now. And if he does become a guy that gets 14 to 1,500 yards, he's going to be a bargain. So lock him in. We can't screw around with that. Quincy should fall in love with Glenn, though, ideally. I think Quincy will like Glenn. Definitely, Clarence is saying definitely. Yeah, look, I don't know about. I think that you have to look more at Wilkes, the defensive coordinator, than you do at Aaron Glenn. Like, I know Aaron Glenn was a defensive coordinator, but he didn't do what Saleh did. Like, he hired a guy who was once a head coach. He hired a guy that was the defensive coordinator of a top 3 NFL defense in San Francisco. Like, he hired a real guy. So that means that they already had the conversation and have the same philosophy. And I don't doubt that Aaron Glenn will go into the defensive back room. And I don't doubt that he will have a special thing for safeties and cornerbacks, and like, and have a special relationship with the cornerbacks, and like every coach does. Parcells did. Parcells' favorite position that he did the most meddling was punt returner. Bill Parcells spent more time than any other room than special teams punt returner. That was where he did the most personal one-on-one coaching. Punt returner. I'm totally serious about that. I don't know where to find the footage of it, but I used to watch it in the 90s. There was some special on it. They showed Bill Parcells. He spent so much time coaching the punt returner. Like, so much. Every coach has their thing that they like. They go into their favorite room or whatever. Aaron Glenn, former stud defensive back, he's going to talk to those guys and coach them. He's going to get in it hands-on with guys like that. There's no question about it. Linebacker, maybe a little bit, but Wilkes is doing, Wilkes is creating the scheme. Wilkes is going to utilize the talent in the scheme. Like, he's going to be calling the defensive plays. Aaron Glenn is going to be a true head coach. He hired 2 coordinators that he is handing the responsibilities to. And he's going to be a head coach. Not the way Robert Saleh said, where he delegates and then he's not in the room or he's not in that room. He's going to be in every aspect of this team. That's how he was taught and trained. He's going to be in the offensive room and the defensive room. His job is going to be the culture of the team, holding everyone from the coaches, all of the coaching staff, all of the players, holding them accountable, managing the football game, teaching the team how to be winners. He's going to be a leader. But and part of being a great leader is having guys and trusting guys to do their jobs. And we have a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator that will be trusted to do their jobs. And believe me, that's the best way, right? Unless you're Andy Reid. But in most situations, in most situations, that's the way to do it. At least that's the way I want to see it done. Tutu Atwell, who is slightly worse than me, just got 10 guaranteed. Who is slightly worse than me. Jeremy Chin. He's a Jeremy. He'd be fun. There's so many safety free agents. I can't wait to see who we're going to sign. It's going to be so exciting. It's so much fun. By the way, Dano, in case anybody, like, one of the main reasons I made Tigo a moderator was that so nobody will block him. Because I was afraid that if he wasn't a moderator, that somebody would block him. I'm just kidding. I made Tigo a moderator a long time ago. But I love the way he confidently says something. You know how, like, most of us will say, in my opinion, Tigo will come in and say something matter-of-factly, like he's some kind of expert. I think it's really funny. I think everybody should write down everything he says. Because since he doesn't say, in my opinion, and since he insists that he knows it for a fact, in 3 years from now, we should take everything he got wrong and just say, we should just throw it in his face nonstop. You told us that Fields can't be good, and now he's on this other team doing good. You're a liar. Just harass the hell out of him. Guys, I've been on for a long time, and some of you are just staying with me, and I don't know why. I'm not that pretty to look at. But I probably have to go downstairs now. It's like 7 o'clock here already, and it's time to go down and, like, watch a movie or something with my wife. So thanks for watching. It's much longer than I intended it to be. But I'm addicted, man. I'm talking and you guys are asking questions and in the chat, and I want to hang out. So I just do it. So take care of yourself. Enjoy your Saturday night. Don't get into any trouble. I'll talk to you later. Chaos out. I'm talking.